What was that? Oh, I know exactly what I need. Some nice Febreze. Here's the review. What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today we're going to be talking about a film that just came out to digital on my birthday. It's Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter focuses on a soldier by the name of Artemis that is sucked into a fantasy world riddled with monstrous creatures that swim in a sea of sand. While there, she teams up with an assortment of other people to battle the monsters in order to return back home. But the path back home may just be the beginning of something bigger. Here's what I knew before watching this film. That it was made by the same people who gave us the Resident Evil franchise, which also stars Milla Jovovich, and that it's once again based upon a hugely popular video game franchise with the same name. The latter was actually something that I discovered much later. I almost saw the movie without knowing it was connected to a video game at all, but alas, at the very least, I knew nothing about the video games, so I can tell you that, without a reasonable doubt, that I had zero expectations going in. All I wanted was a good movie, and when it comes down to Paul W.S. Anderson, he's like a box of Forest chocolates. You never quite know what you're going to get with him. I've been known to stick up for some of the Resident Evil films because on their own, I've had fun with them, even though they lost a big chunk of what made the game so special. And that's ultimately what I wanted to get out of Monster Hunter. But the real question is if it got me there or if I was left disappointed. I'll say this right off the bat. I most likely enjoyed this more than the general public, but I in no way, shape, or form think it's a great film. It has some massive flaws, none of which have to do with expectations over a video game. The things that stick out to me while watching this movie is mostly visuals. Visuals with the look of these monstrous creatures, with the production and set designs, and even some of the cinematography as a whole was pretty to look at. This film is all about transporting a group of people from one place and sucking them into a mystical fantasy land. And as an audience member, I truthfully felt like I was along for the ride, getting sucked into this world as well. A lot of the setup for the film works for me, but a lot of it doesn't. In most narrative arcs, you have an introduction that gets you acquainted with the main characters and the world that surrounds them. And in Monster Hunter, that did a great job with that before the inciting incident, which is when they usually get sucked into the fantasy land, which, again, that's fine. There's no problem there. But in most narratives, it wastes no time to get to the obstacle section. That is, now that we have a problem, what are we going to do to fix it? There's like an hour of exposition in this movie before it actually gets there. Seriously, I'm not kidding. Milla gets thrown into this world, starts running away from the monster, tries to escape from these spider monster things. Then she gets into a tussle with a random native guy, and finally, once it hits the halfway part of the movie, her character's like, hey, maybe we should try to get home. That's way too late to introduce the main goal of the film. And as such, the entire pacing of the film is thrown out the window and you begin to feel that length. And that feeling of the film being too long just never goes away once you feel it. That's not even my main complaint about it. Instead, the biggest thing that I have to complain about here are the disposable soldier characters, including Milla herself. They all just feel so utterly random. None of them have character development. None of them have individual importance into the direction of the plot. None of them have history that we're told about. They're just quite simply nothing characters. I still can't really remember if any of them have names. They're just there. They're just artifacts for a plot to move forward. And you end up not really caring if any of them makes it or dies. I remember Resident Evil having some similar problems, especially because each movie seemed to switch out characters in their rotation. But I think they probably approached that problem better overall, because if it wasn't Milla in this movie, I don't think it would have stood out as much as it did, since I'm actually a massive fan of Milla Jovovich. I personally think she fits really well in the movie, but I don't know if that's because I'm in her fan club or not. But speaking about people that fit a movie or not, Ron Perlman is in this movie. He's a freaking joke. Looks like he's the love child of somebody in Cats and Gary Busey. Then he shows up with a fire sword, and it's supposed to be this epic thing. I can see that, but I just don't believe it. I couldn't help but laugh at him, and that hurts me to say it because I actually am a fan of him as well. I don't know. I was prepared to defend this movie, but some things remain undefendable and flawed. I still think I enjoyed it more than most people, but at the end of the day, that's apparently not saying that much. Let's go ahead and break down my final score for a second. From an unbiased technical level, I think the visuals in the movie are actually pretty good, but it's also a relatively flat film without much substance. So no deaths to be heard of, no character development defined, empty action sequences that don't hold a lot of weight. I don't know, this score is 62%. My bias score, or how I felt about the movie as a whole, was not great. The pacing felt off to me, and I wanted more from these characters in order to care about them, and I didn't get it. It was fine, but it could have been so much more. This score is 58%, averaging out the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 60%, 60 out of 100 possible stars, or a D letter grade. It passes, so at least there's that. Take that as you will and let me know your thoughts on this creature feature. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you play the video games? How does it compare? As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie pick. Thanks for joining up with us. We think